we're really trying to focus on pushing the culture forward because a lot of times that is lost in translation. And then at the same time, being able to hone in and show the power, beauty, and diversity of Latinx people.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nuske here. I hope you're doing really, really well. Now, I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting this show. I've been listening to and reading your feedback. It's warm, it's supportive, and it's making all of the difference knowing that the show is making a difference for you. Now, on today's show, I have somebody who's certainly out there making a difference for his community. I'm on the line with Mr. Michael Watson. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you, Rick. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Now, for some context, Michael is the co-founder, CEO, and executive editor at LatinX Travel Club, and we're going to be talking about the Travel Club along with many of the elements inside of that wonderful organisation, including the LatinX Travel Summit, which is a very exciting thing that happens obviously annually. We're going to take a deep dive into how he and his colleagues are helping you to helping give young Latino business owners a helping hand towards inspired business ownership. Now, that is one heck of a mouthful.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Now, prior to all that, Michael, what we like to do is we like to, I guess, lift the lid on your life personally, just to see your journey leading up to this. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if we can start off by finding out where home is for you.
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Mm-hmm. Lived there all the way up until college. And then after college, I went back to the Bronx to work and to develop my career.
Fantastic. Now, I've heard a lot of great success stories that have come out of the Bronx, and we're going to be talking mm-hmm. about your journey. Do you think an environment that you live in actually helps form the person that you become?
I would say so. The Bronx is a place where it's very multicultural. A lot of great movements have come from the Bronx. Mm. Like you mentioned, you take Ralph Lauren, Stan Lee, who created Marvel Comics, mm-hmm. Really prominent people who are from the Bronx. But just New York City in general, it's a melting pot. It's one of the largest cities in the world. And so it also fosters, the creative arts and entrepreneurship and businesses. So I was, pretty much grew up during the tough times in New York, but I also grew up during the times where it flourished.
Yeah, I know that you love and support your community wholeheartedly. I'd love to touch on that in a moment. But if we could, what was something about the Bronx when you were growing up that you remember fondly?
So, as you know, hip-hop was created in the Bronx, yep. as well as a genre of music called salsa. Mm-hmm. So growing up in the Bronx, it was very, very unique because you were exposed to, hip-hop where they talked about the struggles of like living in the inner city. But at the same time, you saw a lot of wealth. So there was pretty much a very contrast in terms of wealth. Yes, and very diverse in terms of culture. Yep. And you heard so many different languages. You saw so many different types of people. And I was actually fortunate to go to a secondary school, high school, mm-hmm. In Manhattan called LaGuardia. And when I went to school, I actually had classmates such as Nicki Minaj, who is world famous singer and rapper. Yeah. Yes. And as well as my other classmates were on Broadway, and as well actors, artists, you name it. So I was very fortunate to go to a very artsy school, and I would say that helped develop my creativity in the entrepreneurial space.
And this is why I love this sort of conversation, Michael, because it lifts the lid on your life personally, and you just don't know who you're talking to. And I think about that 6 degrees of separation. It'd be interesting for you to listen to music and hear Nicki Minaj on a track. You go, I went to school with this individual, whereas most of us obviously didn't.
Yes, indeed.
Now, what do you do with yourself when you have some downtime? I know you'd be fairly busy, but do you have any hobbies or sports? What's your thing?
Yes. So I'm an avid traveler. I've been to over 87 countries.
Wow.
And I also like to ski and snowboard. So that's my winter sport. And then I do like to sail, and also, I'm a bit of a foodie as well. So
beautiful.
Everything under the
And you give everything a go. Now, what's your favorite foods?
I would say French and more Creole food, which is more mixed with Caribbean spices.
Yep.
So anything Caribbean, anything French, you name it, I love it.
I'm getting hungry already, just starting to talk about this now. I know, given that you've done a lot of travel and you love to travel, things might well have changed recently. At least I'm hoping that the doors to the world are opening up for everyone soon. We can only cross our fingers, can't we? But in terms of being, I guess, locked into your local region, do you have time for movies and things like that?
The movie theaters just recently opened up in the last, I would say, 3 to 6 months. I do enjoy my time at home. I'm terribly busy, and I'm flying back and forth from New York to San Francisco to Miami, meeting with investors, potential partners, and employees. So I enjoy a Netflix night.
Yes, occasionally. Now, given the hustle and bustle, presumably, of where you live, is there room for pets in your life?
Oh, yes, I do. I have 2 wonderful 5-pound dogs.
Beautiful.
One is a toy poodle, and the other one is a Maltese.
Maltese Shih Tzus.
Yeah.
They're wonderful dogs. You can't get them off your shoulder, can you?
Oh, you can.
And what are their names? We have to know their names.
So one of them is named Willie.
Yep.
And then the other dog, the toy poodle, is Wags.
Oh, that's beautiful. Lovely.
Wag your tail.
Well, thank you for sharing again. This is really opening up the door as a good segue into the core of the call, which obviously is LatinX Travel Club, and obviously the summit that we're about to talk about. We're obviously going to be talking on partnerships and opportunities that lay behind this wonderful organisation. Now, I'd like to know, Michael, how you got to be to this place. Were there people as you were growing up that helped shape the person that you become, help shape the beliefs that you have? And I wonder if you can share a little bit about that side of your life.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, growing up in New York City, you're exposed to so much, right? And you're exposed to so many cultures. And so my mother, who is first generation Jamaican, I remember going back and forth when I was younger to Jamaica, during family vacations, during the holidays, you name it. So I grew up in a very unique place where I had the perspective of and opportunities of the United States, but then saw the inequities and the vast difference in wealth disparities in Jamaica. I just remember that when I used to drive through the countryside, I would see shacks and I would see people without plumbing and just extreme poverty. And so, growing up, I've always wanted to, be able to help the underserved community. And so both my mother and my father were both public servants. My mother was a principal. My father was a hospital exec. And so from an early age, they instilled that fundamental sense of purpose in me. And so throughout my years, I worked really hard in school. I was fortunate to get into some top universities, got a full scholarship to one of the top universities in the United States.
Excellent.
And with that education, I was able to apply it to my career. I was fortunate to go to law school, go to receive my MBA. And, I would say fundamentally just knowing that, I had culture behind me. And so my business partner and I, how this all came about was that we actually have known each other for over 25 years.
And so I was going to ask you about him.
Yeah. So his name is Pablo Segara. And so him and we met during junior high school, and we've been friends ever since. And so I probably right before COVID, I had actually went to an event hosted by my now co-founder, where he was talking about he was doing an introduction and fundraising for his nonprofit. And the whole premise around the nonprofit was to give scholarships to college students in order to travel throughout Latin America, to places where they were from, and essentially be able to not only give back through philanthropy, but also to learn about their roots, and as well connect with other peers and other college students. So he created this nonprofit, which I ended up joining the board, and COVID hit. So unfortunately, there was no travel, there was no funding for the nonprofit. And so him and I just decided, hey, this is something that we could explore, a little bit deeply, and to create a company out of it, to garner interest, to show the difference, to show that sort of like bridge and that connection of Latinos who are in America to the rest of the Western Hemisphere. And so, as you know, and maybe you know or don't know, but Latinos are the largest growing demographic in America. They're also the largest minority group, but namely, they are the largest demographic in the Western Hemisphere. And so there is a large diaspora of Latinx people who reside in America. Yeah. So similar to my mother, who was born in Jamaica, there's a lot of Latinx people, younger, millennials, Gen Z, who are first generation. And so with that said, is that they, don't know much about their culture. They don't know much about where their grandparents are from, where their parents are from. And so we felt that it was important to be able to show the beauty, to be able to show the connections of the culture, from someone who's from Mexico to someone who's from Puerto Rico, or someone who's from Colombia. And so through our efforts, in the last year, we actually started off with a social media page where we've garnered close to 200,000 people worldwide who follow us.
That's excellent.
Yes. Yeah. So it's been a great journey. The culture, we're really trying to focus on pushing the culture forward because a lot of times that is lost in translation. Yep. And then at the same time, being able to hone in and show the power, beauty, and diversity of Latinx people.
That's great feedback. Thank you so very much for clarifying everything that this is about. There's certainly a lot more for us to uncover. There are many, many dimensions to this organization, at least online even. Now, I'm wondering if we can go back a bit. Was this your first ever experience as an entrepreneur? Do you remember, like, when we grow up, we all have an experience as an entrepreneur. Were you on the street corner selling strawberries, or what was your thing?
Yes. So I've always had an entrepreneurial experience. I actually created my first experience was in high school, where my buddies and we created a skateboard company.
Oh, wow.
And so what we did was we did custom designs on skateboards, and we sold them out of a local shop down in Bleecker Street, Soho area in New York. And it went really well. We amassed, a good, I would say like 5 figures sales over a period of 2 years. Yep. But Obviously, like anything, like everything happens, we had to go to college, we had to grow up, and things change. But it really, I would say that this is maybe like my second venture as a professional. My first venture, which is the holders company of the LatinX Travel Club, is called actually Venture. It's spelled VENTYOUR. And so this particular company, I helped develop it with a few partners in business school. And fortunately, I was actually, came up with a business plan. There was a pitch competition that we, entered, and we actually won and received funding from my business school. And so we created it, developed it, developed the app, et cetera. And then unfortunately, we couldn't get funding. So I had to take a break, and, now we're fully put it to the side. Exactly. But now, since COVID's happened, we revitalized it. Out of this, we've created a subsidiary, which is the LatinX Travel Club. We're actually branched out into other verticals, including film, health and wellness, and as well as music and media. And
that's all under the LatinX Travel Club brand?
It's under the Venture brand.
Oh, right.
So the Travel Club, it's primarily focused on travel, and then we branched out in other areas.
Now, Michael, again, this is wonderful conversation. Thank you. I'm really enjoying it. Now, I'd like to, if we could, we have a lot of startup entrepreneurs, those who are just starting their business journey. They'll be listening intently to what you have to say. And I want to know, what have you learned from taking a chance and exposing yourself to risk?
Yeah, so what I've learned, first off, risk is a very important factor. I most recently left my job. I was a former global director at a Fortune 500 company. So I was receiving equity. I was pretty high up at the company. And I, pretty much, took that plunge to say, hey, you have to go in full with your heart, full with your efforts. And, the risk part is, a lot of people say it's the hardest part, but it's actually the easiest part because it's just something that you believe in, something that is going to work out in your, in the bottom of your heart.
It's that burning the bridges, isn't it?
Yes.
Burn the boats behind you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, a lot of relationships, like you have to take that into accountability. But yeah, that I would say that, that was probably the most important part that I've learned. In addition, I would say that relying on, your teammates, through this journey, I've had to heavily rely on my co-founder. He's been tremendous. We speak literally like 8 hours a day. And, when I'm down, he's there to pick me up. When he's down, I'm there to pick him up.
Excellent.
And so through this journey is also, understanding how important your partners are and your team is.
Yeah, that's wonderful feedback. Now, I know that you mentioned, when you're down, and we all have those sort of down days, don't we? We're not always top of the mountain and everything's rosy. Sometimes we're a bit challenged throughout the day. So how much does your mindset play a part in what you do, and what do you do to bring yourself back up?
Yeah, so with the mindset, what I personally do is I'm really a big believer in mindfulness. And so what I do is I'm very, very systematic about my day-to-day activities, especially with being, having to juggle so many things at once. You have to be very diligent in your approach. And so what I do is when I'm overheated or stressed, I take a step back and I meditate, and I kind of, I look at it at the big picture, right? Throughout this journey, there's been tremendously a lot of failures. It's been, not only just like, making mistakes, but also, people that you rely on, certain commitments that fall through. And so, you build up a thick skin, and you build up a resilience. And so I would say that over time, and one of the most important things that I've learned is perseverance, right? And how do you learn from your mistakes? How do you pivot when you have an idea and you try to execute it? However, you have to take a pivot and be able to make the right decision so that you bring the company forward.
Well, that's a good segue into my next question, because I was going to ask you where and your business partner get your best ideas from. How do they come about? Do you have some sort of a process you go through, or does it just come to you in the middle of a night?
So, I'm always referred as for my business partner as the brain trust. And, I would say that a lot of it comes from leveraging experience, leveraging building relationships. All throughout my career, I've always been in a very people first kind of field, like business development, whether it's managing a team. So I've been able to develop those attributes. But more importantly, I would say that it's all about understanding your why and going back to the root of why you're doing this, and being able to answer some of those questions and come up with these ideas, and understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and following your mission, and following a systematic approach of how you achieve your mission. It all starts with why. And so my business partner, and I are constantly, reflecting and always thinking of new ideas and ways to how we could maximize on opportunities. And, we've done a great job. We built a large following. We have the summit, which is going to be, we've been publicized in many different, national and international syndicates. And this is our first summit. We have an attendance of 500 people. And, given it's COVID, I understand that it's very difficult, but we're really, really happy with the results that have come. So, short answer to your question, it really, in terms of coming up with the ideas, we always look at why we're doing it.
Absolutely. That's great feedback. Thanks again. Now, given the COVID situation, are you likely to have an online component for this summit?
No, actually, we chose to do it. We chose not to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And the reason being is because we wanted more of a controlled environment. We want this to be a little bit more exclusive. And I understand. And in addition to that, we're also filming a documentary. So yes, so we've invited a lot of press, and locally as well as nationally. We do have press coming in from Puerto Rico and other places outside of Mexico and other places in Latin America. So we wanted this to be more intimate, more of a safe space also for people to, address any concerns, to bring up any type of impact statements or, ideas, so that we have thought-provoking conversations. And so we are going to publicize, parts of the event later on, but just in the interim, we're just keeping it private. And we're really excited.
Yeah, that's excellent. Oh, very exciting. That would be a great event to go to. Now, I'm always interested. It fascinates me how people come up with the names for their organizations. How did you come about this particular name?
Yeah, so in LatinX Travel Club or...
LatinX Travel Club.
Yeah, so what we did was we thought, what is the connector of people who are the diaspora in America and as well throughout Latin America, and we saw that in social media a lot of people like to travel, as well as the fact that it is a way to connect cultures and to go outside your comfort zone to learn about a different culture. So we thought of like the idea of just starting out with travel first, based off the nonprofit, since we were going to do cultural immersion trips for college students. And when we said and there's also like the famous like Havana Club, which is a very prominent syndicate in Cuba. And so what we decided to do was just say, hey, let's do the Latinx Travel Club. And it's been, and it's comfortable, it's inviting. We came out with a really beautiful logo where it's like the symbolism. Very nice. Yeah, the symbolism is supposed to be more inviting. Think of like just a breath of fresh air, you name it. And so we also specifically chose Latinx with the purpose of utilizing that whole non-binary, non-judgmental, very talking more inclusive, more equality. The word actually came out of LGBTQ activists. And so, yes. And so what's important about it also is that it's supposed in the Latin language, it's supposed to get rid of gender norms. So a lot of times in Latino culture, it's called Latino, which is male-centric. But at the same time, yes, and then you have Latinas. So what we're trying to do is to be able to create that sort of ideology that we're all equal, that we recognize Latinas, we recognize non-binary, we recognize LGBTQ, we recognize everybody and everyone from walks of life.
You know what, there's been a lot of thought that's gone into that, and it's a credit to you because it's super important, because that's the very first thing people will see and most likely remember. Now, in terms of, you've got your friend Pablo. Who else is involved in this wonderful organization?
Yeah, so we have the nonprofit, which is we're connected to. We're actually on the board. We have 5 people on our board. One gentleman who is a former state assemblyman. He spent his whole career, maybe I think 20 years in politics. He's one of the founders of the nonprofit. And then we also have 3 other women, Latinas, who are well respected and also corporate directors at major banks. So that's our board for who are helping to part of the proceeds from the summit is to pay for scholarships for college students. So that is facilitated through the nonprofit. And then for our business, we've contracted with local organizations. So we're partnered with a marketing agency called Suela. They're based out of Dominican Republic. So we're working with 2 women, Latinas, on our marketing efforts. And then we also partnered with a local PR agency called Raices. They're a local Miami-based PR company that is helping us with press, logistics, etc. And then we are also I personally contracted a consultant, PR consultant, Mara Lee. She's also has her business. She's a business grad. She's been extremely helpful with our national press as well as our local press here in Miami.
Wow, this is going to just absolutely take off. It's a real credit to you, all this hard work that's going on, the way that you're connecting with the world's, leading multinational brands. And I was going to ask you exactly about that, how you're doing that. And it's clear to me that you've got networks of individuals working together.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's been a great journey because, we are, granted, like as I explained, the Latinx people are the largest growing demographic. It also has the largest growing entrepreneurs in America. And, they are the largest demographic in the Western Hemisphere. So, there's a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity, business opportunities and enterprise opportunities. And so, yeah, absolutely. And so we felt that it was, just through our journey and over time, we've, been able to garner our are following up to 200 plus thousand. And we feel that, a lot of multinational companies have come to us. They've inquired with us. We are currently working with Diageo for our event, with also LATAM Airlines. Hyatt is also another brand that we're working with. And
major brands.
Major multinational brands. And it's been great. And as I mentioned before, I've been featured in the New York Times, which is a national, international publication. I've also been
featured. It's just a small one.
Yes, just a small one. And then as well as we've been featured in Travel and Leisure, which we were listed as the top 50 most notable people in travel for 2021. So we're on a list with with Anthony Bourdain, Mickey Mouse. So we've been able to, garner a lot of attention. And I think that, you with Latinx people for a while, they haven't been paid attention to. And I think that what we've done is through our efforts where we are showing the beauty, power, and diversity of our people. And so a lot of brands are paying attention. And I hope so. I think it's a great opportunity. And I think that, there needs to be representation.
Well, clearly, absolutely, there must be, and coming through the My Future Business show hopefully extends that reach for you. Now,
absolutely, I appreciate it.
Now, when people want to work with you, they want to partner with you, I know that there's a lot going on in your website, so I'm wondering if you can just briefly explain what they will find when they get there. What's the actual place that they need to go to see your website, and what is the partnership process for those who are interested in getting involved? Yeah,
so we do have a website for our summit, which lists our speakers, details on the event. Also, you can get tickets. So that's our LatinX Travel Summit website. Then we also have the LatinX Travel Club website, where you can get editorials that we've done on people from our community, which includes former Miss Universes. We have a former Miss Universe. We also have former Olympians, and as well as Emmy winners and Oscar winners. So we have really, really amazing people on our website. But there is a tab for anyone who would like to partner, potentially also like to sponsor. We're open and willing to work with you. And that goes for nonprofits all the way up until multinational companies. We're open to all.
Yeah, great. Look, this conversation's been just like lifting the lid, and there's just so much more to learn and to see on the LatinXTravelClub.com website. I'll be making sure that link is made available to you no matter where you see this post or listen to this call. You will find the link back to that URL. And with all that being said, Michael, thank you so very much for joining me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you, Rick, and it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.